Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
Today is Thursday, October 8th, 2020. My name is Justin Coffin, and this is the 330 Sports Show. We are broadcasting live from downtown Youngstown, Ohio, and we are produced by Joe Danier's Youngstown Studio Network. Thank you to Coca's Pizza for sponsoring the show. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest here. You're going to notice her from WKBN. You're going to see her every morning, and she's a very familiar face around the valley. So I'd like to welcome in Chelsea Spears.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely.
This is my first podcast ever.
Really? First one?
Yes.
Okay.
Really.
All right. Very good. Very good. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you've probably been up since what time did you get up this morning?
Oh, I snooze. I'm a friend of the snooze button. I woke up this morning at 3:25, which is way later than I should be waking up because I'm supposed to be into work camera ready by 4.
Okay.
So
all right.
3:25 was my alarm clock.
And you guys do a show from 5 to 7 and then 7 to 9?
Yep. So we're CBS from 5 to 7 on First News this morning, and then 7 to 9 First News on Fox Morning Edition, 4 hours, and then I also do the new newscast.
Okay, all right, man, that's a
4.5
busy.
hours.
I mean, I need coffee just like listening to that schedule.
I live on
so
coffee, yeah.
I can only imagine. So Chelsea, could you tell us about just give us a little bit about your background, your history, and how you got into media?
Sure. So I actually started in the TV program in my high school.
Okay.
Did video, but I actually loved print journalism a lot. Was trying to go that route. In college, I went to Ohio State. I did the student newspaper, the Lantern there. I did Buckeye TV, and was trying to get a print internship and couldn't. Ended up landing an internship with the ABC Fox affiliate there. Did my internship there, got offered a job there.
Okay.
Transitioned into West Virginia, my first on-air reporting job, which then they transferred me, that station did, here to Youngstown a few years later. So here I am in the Valley now.
Okay. And how long have you been here in Youngstown now?
Youngstown, 3 years this month,
Okay.
actually. This is my
right.
three-year anniversary.
Very cool. Very cool. And I know you have a pretty large following, your audience. And so again, that's great. We appreciate you coming on. So could you take us through, especially being a morning anchor, that's
Sure.
very unique.
Mm-hmm.
Could you take us through like what a typical day in your life would be?
Sure. So I get into work roughly 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
My executive producer, our other producers have been working since the night before, finding different story ideas, putting them together, writing those scripts. So I get in at 4 o'clock and just have to hit the ground running. We have less than an hour from when I get in to when we hit the air. I'm reading through scripts, changing things to, our goal is to make things as simple and easy to understand as possible.
Sure.
I'm rewriting stuff just to explain it more in a way of how I would say it to you
Mm-hmm.
here right now, rather than just that typical jargony stuff you hear. So I rewrite things. I ask a lot of questions, trying to make sure I understand the stories. I'm not just reading them.
Mm-hmm.
Want to understand them. Read through those. I have an hour to do that roughly.
Okay.
We go upstairs, we anchor it for 4 hours, and we're throughout those 4 hours peppering in new stories throughout the day. Like today we got new pictures from a story from a crash we were covering. So we're just peppering all these things in throughout the 4-hour newscast.
Okay.
Sitting there for 4 hours, going live 4 hours, and then after that's over, I help produce the noon. A lot of people think as anchors, we just sit there and read whatever's put in front of us. It's not true.
Yeah.
We have the noon newscast. So my producer, Lori, and I, we really work hand in hand to find those stories, write them, and figure out what's going to be happening on our new newscast that day. And I'm off at 12:30.
Okay. All right. And then you came right down here. So
I did.
So that's, we're adding to your live coverage. So when you're on live,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any interesting stories of any either, curveballs that were thrown at you or just crazy things that might have happened?
Pretty often, actually, more than you'd think. A lot of times technology fails. We've all had those instances, right? Well,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of times the prompter goes out.
Okay.
And you just have to ad-lib your way through it. And you don't have anything in front of you, but that's why it's important to know the story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when GM announced they were closing. back was that I think November, a few years back. I was the only anchor in the newsroom at the time. So like, Chelsea, go on up. You just start talking and you stop when we tell you to stop. It's like, okay. So I was single anchoring, ad-libbing my way through it. I had a fever that day too. And we were breaking in, doing live news coverage for a while. I had producers in my ear giving me new information throughout that time, but we just went live straight for 10 minutes.
So like you said, you better know the story,
right,
or else you got a lot of time to fill.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And was that difficult, you know, not being necessarily from this area? So how do you go about like just learning the area?
I mean, you just got to get out and involved in the community. You know, you live here, you do everything here, and that's how you learn things the best way you know how. Before I moved here, I was looking up things on paper, but it's not the same as being in the community, living here and being here all the time.
Okay, very good. So you had mentioned you get up early and, you know, you got to do your reads and get to know the news and things like that. So tell us what maybe the best and maybe what the worst parts are about being a journalist.
Oh, let's see. Best parts are that you can make a change in your community. I mean, that's why I got into this. I wanted to make a difference, and you can do that through investigative reports. Problems that are happening in this area. Did a story like a year ago about dark roads in Youngstown, specifically Glenwood being so dark. You can bring attention to that and potentially save lives, especially our meteorologists. I mean, they can do that a lot with their severe weather coverage. So I definitely love being able to make a difference, but also being on the morning news, helping people start their day. Yeah. You know, people are drinking their coffees with you. They're waking up with you. You're a part of their morning routine. Sometimes they'll see me out, and I love if you guys ever see me out and about, say hi. But it's funny because they act sometimes like they know me, and I've never seen them before in my life. I'm like, do I know you?
Well, and I think to be a morning person, you have to be a peppy, positive, in a good mood all the time. And I'm sure that's probably easier said than done all the time, at least waking up that early. But yeah, you do a fantastic job with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We were talking a little bit before the show, back in your time in Columbus. You actually were covering the Ohio State national championship year in 14-15. So could you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mentioned it a little bit ago, but I used to work for the Lantern, which was the student newspaper at Ohio State. And I was the multimedia editor there my senior year. So I ended up being, I would call it like an assistant photographer for all the home Ohio State games. And they ended up doing really well that year. That's the year they won the national championship. So I got to be on the sidelines and doing still photography for the student newspaper for all the home games, the Big Ten championship, and the Sugar Bowl, which was in Louisiana, which was a really fun time.
Oh, yeah. That might have been, you know, just looking back at Ohio State's last, 10 years, that's probably the coolest game. You know, everybody thinks, national championship versus Oregon, but that game against Alabama, that just really
and leading up to it, you had so many turnovers, especially in the quarterback position. I mean, you had Braxton to Barrett, and Barrett got injured, and then it was
Cardell Jones, right? Yeah. It just, you're playing your third string quarterback and you still go out and win the national title.
Crazy watching that.
So during your time in Columbus, and you grew up in Columbus, or in the outskirts at least, what's your favorite part of campus or Ohio State memories, I guess?
Well, covering the 14-15 championship was one of my favorite memories. Gosh, just living in the dorms. I lived on North Campus my freshman year. I studied abroad. We went to London for a week and a half. That was a condensed study abroad. I loved it. I loved my time at Ohio State.
Yeah. Very cool. What dorm did you live in down there?
Haverfield.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still best friends with some of the people I met that year. Love them.
Great. That's great. Did you have any favorite campus bars or restaurants? Which
ones did I not like?
Yeah, I know. Very true.
When I was there, we loved Chumley's. It was more of a sports bar. I don't think it's there anymore, actually. Outer End was always a classic. What other ones? Well, we just went to all of them on High Street. But it's funny, I have a cousin who goes there now. It looks completely different.
Totally different. Every time I go down to Columbus, I feel like it's like exponentially growing bigger and bigger and bigger. So now that you've been in Youngstown and you mentioned, you get out in the community a lot, you've learned it. What are some of your favorite things about Youngstown?
Oh, the food. Oh, the food is to die for, especially pizza. I didn't know this is what pizza was supposed to taste like. The Elmton, I could eat one of those every day.
So the Elmton, if you had to guess, would that be your favorite place?
People hate on me for not choosing Wedgwood over Elmton.
That's all right. That's okay.
I'm a big fan of Coca's. Love Coca's too. We always get pizza Friday nights, so I would call myself an expertise in that. Yeah,
this area definitely, I would say, if you've never been here or if you're not from here, you got to get the food. So let's go to a little bit more sports topics. Okay. So I wanted to preface this with if let's just say baseball hypothetically, or even a wedding intro. So when you're coming up to bat or you're being introduced at a wedding or something, there's usually a walk-up song. Do you have a particular song maybe that you would walk up to?
When I was in high school, we always had this debate, actually, me and my friends. I always said Up, Up, and Away by Kid Cudi, but I haven't updated that over the years, so I feel like I need to update it, but that's the first song that pops into my head.
That's good. That's good. Okay. And he's a Cleveland guy, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you had, let me actually switch to this. Do you have a favorite sports movie that or show that stands out to you?
I would have to say Rocky's a classic.
Okay.
Creed has been a good follow-up too over the years, but I'd probably say, Rocky.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So I want to do, and I've only done the segment one time, but I want to throw the segment at you. It's called This or That.
Okay.
So I'm just going to throw these questions at you.
Okay.
There's only 6 of them, so not too bad.
Okay.
And then if you want to elaborate, you can elaborate. If you don't, if you just want to
elaborate at the end or right after each one?
After each one. Okay. I'll give you the option of that.
Okay.
All right. So this or that. If you had a DeLorean, so say from Back to the Future, would you take it to the past or future? Future. Okay.
I don't know what year though.
Okay.
Maybe 2021 to see if it's any better than 2020.
My God. Let's hope so. Would you rather be the funniest person or the most intelligent?
Most intelligent.
Okay. Would you rather be 4'2" or 8'2"?
4'2".
Okay.
I'm 5'7". People, that's actually one of the questions I get when I go out into public. Maybe not a question, but they're like, "Wow, you're way taller than I thought."
Is it and? Do you wear heels on?
I do,
okay, so it probably gives you a couple extra inches.
But they think I'm way taller in person than I look on air. I don't know why.
But not 8'2".
Not even that tall. I'm only 5'7".
People can follow you a lot on social media. So Facebook or Twitter?
Facebook.
Okay. How about Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay. All right. Since it's October and there's a lot of, horror movies out, Halloween's coming up. Do you prefer horror movies or comedy movies?
Oh, comedy.
Okay.
I hate horror movies.
Yeah?
I hate them with a passion.
And obviously getting up early and being on the news, and you got to be alert and always on. Hot coffee or cold coffee?
Cold.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But if I'm being honest, I probably have both over the course of my day, if not several times.
Okay.
Usually I start with a black coffee for the 4 hours, lasts me almost all 4 hours, and then I get an iced coffee from Dunkin' as my treat afterwards.
Okay. All right. Very good. So I guess this kind of answers my next question. I was going to say Dunkin' or Starbucks.
Oh, Dunkin' for sure.
Dunkin'. All right. Yeah. I think Starbucks gets a lot of love, which nothing against Starbucks, but just the straight up coffee from Dunkin' is
yeah. And if
superior.
You want a specialty coffee, go to Starbucks, but I don't know. Dunkin's cheaper. And then, of course, you have your local places, too, that I love.
Sure.
Love those as well, but.
This is a question I usually ask most of my guests. If so, I guess kind of going back to the time machine. If you had a time machine and a ticket to attend any sporting event, what sporting event would you attend?
In the past. Gosh.
I guess you could, you know what? I'll open that up. It could be the future too.
Okay. Then I would say a World Series game involving the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
I probably shouldn't say that I'm a Reds fan.
That's all right.
But being from Columbus, you're kind of torn between these, Cincinnati and Cleveland. And I was always a Reds fan growing up, but I still love the Indians.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. I just happen to follow the Reds a little bit just because of Trevor Bauer now.
Okay, yeah.
And he's just so interesting, to say the least.
Very much so.
Okay. And now this is just kind of my final sports question I have for you. with Ohio State being back,
Mhm.
what's your expectations of this coming season?
Just some entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I don't even have that high of expectations. I just want to see them play.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess my expectation is that they will play some games.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows where this season is heading? I mean, really, with the pandemic.
I know. And, with the NFL, can't seem to figure it out right now. There's one or two games that are up in question.
You just
and
had the Steelers,
the Steelers just got postponed, and now I think New England's up in the air, and Buffalo and Tennessee, and it's crazy.
There's no right answer right now.
Mm-mm. So, well, Chelsea, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you've been here, but tell us how people can, check you out on social media and where to watch you.
Sure. So I have Instagram at Chelsea WKBN. I'm also Chelsea Spears on Facebook. It's under the page tab. I think a lot of times people are trying to find me under the people tab, but
Sure.
Yeah, Chelsea Spears is my professional Facebook page. Love connecting with people on there. So hit me up. I'm also on Twitter. And then obviously you can watch me every weekday morning, 5 to 9 a.m. on First News, and then at noon from 12 to 12:30 on CBS.
Well, we really, really appreciate you taking the time to come
fun.
out. And you're always welcome back on. And, just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great
Thanks.
job.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and transition now before we get into some more of our sports segments. But this is a video we had to cut the other day for time. But with Kelly Pavlik on Tuesday, I thought this was a pretty funny video to transition. So we're going to watch this right now.
Analysis, fiber checks, DNA breakdown, hair samples. Then using the microscopic dirt particles on this footprint, it's a matter of getting a geologic breakdown of the entire city.
We may not have that kind of time, Ted.
Then maybe this'll help. We found his wallet on the curb outside the Institute. We haven't yet had a chance to examine it thoroughly. It just came down from the lab an hour ago.
Hector Savage from Detroit. Hey, I remember this pug. Ex-boxer. His real name was Joey Chicago.
Oh, yeah. He fought under the name of Kid Minneapolis.
Hey, I saw Kid Minneapolis fight once in Cincinnati.
No, you're thinking of Kid New York. He fought out of Philly.
He was killed in the ring in Houston by Tex Colorado. You know, the Arizona assassin.
Yeah, from Dakota. I don't remember if it was north or south.
North. South Dakota was his brother from West Virginia.
You sure know your boxing.
Well, all I know is never bet on the white guy. You got an address in there?
All I've got is a card that says Monique DiCarlo, 210 Bleckman Street.
That's the red light district. Wonder why Savage is hanging out down there.
Sex, Frank?
No, not right now, Ed. We got work to do.
All right. We are back. I would like to again thank Chelsea Spears for coming out and coming on the podcast. Again, find her on WKBN First News this morning. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the NFL. And we were just recently talking about some games in question. Right now, we have a couple games in question. We're not sure if they're going to be played, if they're not going to be played. So those two games right now are New England and Denver. Cam Newton and Stephon Gilmore both have tested positive for COVID-19. So those, happen to be two of their stars, two very impactful players on the team. But we believe that game can still be played as long as there's no more positive tests. Tennessee and Buffalo, that's going to be another issue. Tennessee has had an outbreak amongst their team. I believe there's 19 total players and staff that have tested positive. So we will see what's going to happen going forward with that. So let's switch to some positive NFL news. Obviously, last week the Browns took care of the Cowboys. The Cowboys were a 5-point favorite in that game, and the Browns came out and really blitzed them early. They came out and won 49-38. It got a little bit nerve-wracking there in the fourth quarter with the Cowboys. I believe the Cowboys were down by 27 and cut it to 3 at one point. But the Browns built such a big lead that they were able to put it away late. The Browns also rushed for 307 yards in that game. Odell Beckham had 3 touchdowns, the first one being from Jarvis Landry. He had another from Baker, and then the rushing touchdown at the end of the game to seal the deal. A negative from that game, though, Nick Chubb, the Browns running back, arguably one of the best running backs in the NFL, went down with an MCL sprain. And, you know, from my prior experience, I've never personally had an MCL, but I know people that have had an MCL injury. It's usually a minimum of 4 weeks, and I would say a maximum of 8 weeks. So I think the Browns were being, you know, right in the middle. They said it's probably going to be a 6-week injury. So Kareem Hunt's going to step in. Dearness Johnson, he ran for 95 yards in that win on Sunday. So we will see what the Browns do, but they're very blessed to have a running back the caliber of Kareem Hunt to just step right in, and hopefully for the other guys coming in, it's plug and play, and they can do the job. So right now in the NFL, we have Kansas City, Seattle, Green Bay, and Buffalo all sitting at 4-0, and the Titans and the Steelers were actually postponed last week. They are both sitting at 3-0. So there are 6 undefeated teams right now in the NFL, and our 0-4 teams are the Jets and the Giants. Just things really look bad in New York. The Jets coach Adam Gase, I'm guessing, is probably on his way out. It's just not a good situation right now in with the Jets. The Giants show a little bit of fight, and obviously are without Saquon Barkley. Atlanta, you know, they're another team. Their offense looks really good, but they just can't put it all together. And then we had our first coach fired in the NFL this past week was Bill O'Brien, who ironically is not just the head coach, he was the GM of the team. So, you know, I was kind of joking around and saying, like, well, did he technically fire himself? So I don't know. Romeo Crennel is going to step in as a temporary, temporary coach to fill the void. But the Houston Texans, you know, they have a pretty nice roster. They are without a first-round pick this coming year, but that's a pretty nice spot for a new coach to land in. When you got your quarterback set up, that's half the battle right there in the NFL. So we will see what happens with the Houston Texans. So we have the 6 undefeated teams. We have our 4 winless teams. And here's some other news and notes from around the NFL this past weekend. Joe Burrow picked up his first win with the Bengals, and he has now thrown for 3 consecutive games of 300-plus yards as a rookie, which obviously very, very impressive. He's doing a fantastic job, but they still need to figure out a way to protect him. My MVP candidates through 4 weeks of football. So through 4 weeks, you're at the quarter point of the season, which is pretty crazy how fast it really does go. But my MVP candidates through 4 weeks are, I would have to say Russell Wilson probably would be first. Aaron Rodgers would be second. Patrick Mahomes would be third, and Josh Allen is right up there with them. In the top 4. So, you know, if I left somebody off, if I'm missing somebody, feel free to write in on the comments, because, you know, I'd like to know, again, if I'm missing somebody or, you know, maybe you think somebody should come off that list or somebody should be added to that list, let us know. I'm going to go through week 5 of the NFL. And tonight we have a game, Tampa at Chicago. Tampa is a 5.5 point favorite. Tampa has been really, really hit hard by the injury bug. They've lost, Mike Evans is questionable. They're without another receiver, I believe. OJ Howard is out for the season. Their tight end, Gronkowski, just doesn't look the same right now. So with that said, though, they're at Chicago, and Chicago to me is just still not a team that I see doing much, even sitting at 3-1. Excuse me. But so I'm going to take the Buccaneers as 5.5 point favorites to win that game. Switching over to Sunday, we have Carolina at Atlanta. I'm gonna take Carolina. I really think Carolina is doing a very, very nice job this year. In Atlanta, again, Carolina's actually getting 3.5 points on the weekend. So I am going to take Teddy Bridgewater, Carolina, and to bump Atlanta to 0-5. I'm not going to pick the Buffalo-Tennessee game simply because Tennessee, with all its cases of COVID, I don't know if that game's even going to be played. So I'm going to hold off on that game. Moving on to Vegas and Kansas City. Kansas City is an 11.5 point favorite. Kansas City has covered every game this season, so I'm rolling with them until they don't cover. And you guys can probably hear it in my voice. This is the first time I've had like a little bit of a, excuse me, I'm gonna take a sip of water, a little bit of a scratchy throat. And I was just thinking to myself before I came in today, I'm like, damn, life has changed so much where I have to like really feel uncomfortable if I'm coughing or anything like that. By the way, I'm 100% healthy. It's just a little bit of allergies, but I can't seem to kick this. Moving on, we have, excuse me, Denver at New England. New England is a 10.5 point favorite. And again, provided this game is played, we have Cam Newton and we have Stephon Gilmore, arguably their best offensive player, their best defensive player on the injury list. So we're on the COVID list. So we're gonna see if that game even gets played. But I would take New England laying the 10.5. Arizona and the Jets. I'm just simply not picking the Jets at all this season. I really don't care what the spread is. Arizona's coming off a tough loss. They are laying 7.5. I'm going to take the Cardinals to cover that game. Next up, we have Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Philadelphia is at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a 7.5 point favorite. And Pittsburgh basically had their bye week moved to last week because of the Tennessee situation. So I think that extra time, Pittsburgh wins that game and covers. So they win by 8 or more. Next up, we have the Rams at the Washington football team. Washington is getting 9.5 points. I'm going to take the Rams to win by 10 or more in that game. Washington actually just benched Haskins, excuse me, for Kyle Allen. So we're going to see how that plays out. Next up, we have the Bengals at the Ravens. Earlier in the day, I picked the Ravens to win that game. I'm actually going to change my pick to Cincinnati. I really think Joe Burrow's got something going. And I think he, even if let's say it's a 20-point game late, I think he's going to drive down and get a score late to get that cover. So I'm going to take the Bengals getting 13.5. Next up, we have Jacksonville at Houston. Houston is a 6.5 point favorite. I'm going to take, excuse me, I apologize for my voice. I'm going to take Houston laying 6.5 points. And I believe with the Romeo Cornell coming in, I think that's just going to be a little bit extra motivation for the team to win that game. Next up, we have Miami at San Francisco. San Francisco is laying 8.5 points. So I'm going to take Miami to cover, getting 8.5 points. Let's see. We have our Browns, the Colts at the Browns. This game's basically a pick'em. The Browns are getting a 0.5 point. It started off, I believe New England was a 2.5 point favorite. But I apologize. My voice is really, really struggling here. All right, got to get a drink in there. All right, so what's that? Yeah, why not? Come on up, man. But we got the Browns getting a 0.5 point. I'm going to take the Browns, and this is going to kind of be a game to say, hey, are the Browns going to take that next step? They're not used to being a winning franchise, but it's kind of nice to have an adult as your coach with Kevin Stefanski, and I really like what he's doing in Cleveland, changing the culture. So I'm going to take the Browns on that one. Also, we got the Giants at the Cowboys. The Cowboys are laying 9.5 points. I'm going to take the Cowboys to cover that spread. I think the Cowboys are loaded with weapons. They're coming off a bad loss. The national media is really hammering them right now. So I'm going to call on Dallas to win this game and win by 10 or more. The Sunday night game is Minnesota at Seattle. I'm riding the Russell Wilson train and the Seahawks until they prove me wrong. But Seattle's laying 7.5. I'm going to take Seattle to cover that spread. And then our Monday night game is we have the Chargers at the Saints. And I picked against the Saints last week, but excuse me, this is awful. I am going to take the Saints to cover the 7.5 point spread. So I want to switch gears. Hopefully my voice will switch gears. I apologize to anybody listening. I'm going to pick up my game here. But we're going to switch now to the Major League Baseball playoffs. So give you a little update. We're sort of in the Elite Eight right now of the playoffs. We have Tampa and New York. Tampa is up 2 games to 1 in that series. All these series are best of 5, by the way. Houston is up 2 games to 1 on Oakland. The Dodgers are up 2 games to none on San Diego. Atlanta is up 2 games to none on Miami in the National League. So, a lot of these series look like, Tampa looks like the better team. Houston and Oakland, I think, is a toss-up. The Dodgers look like the better team, although if you did not see it, Cody Bellinger made an absolutely fantastic catch to save that game against San Diego the other day. And then we have Atlanta up 2-0 on Miami, and Atlanta just looks like the superior team, and they're gonna really take that series. So we'll check in on those games next week. I do have a question for our viewers out there, and feel free to write in on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll check in on this next week. So my question is, does Tampa Bay have the best sports team in America right now? So we have the Lightning, who are NHL champs. We have the Rays, who are in the playoffs, up 2 games to 1 on the Yankees. And we have Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, who are 3-1 on the season. So I would like to see if anyone if anybody out there can produce another city. Now, I'm going to say this. That city must have at least 3 professional sports teams in it. So no Green Bay, for example. So if you can think of another city that maybe I'm missing, I'm going to say Tampa Bay right now probably has the best professional sports teams in America right now as a whole. All right. Moving on now to the NBA. We have the Lakers going for an NBA Finals championship, not tonight, but Friday night. And they're switching to their sort of a tribute, a nod to Kobe Bryant. They're calling them the Black Mamba uniforms that Kobe made famous. Obviously, we know back earlier in the year, he passed away. But you know, that's kind of their nod to him on that. So are you rooting out there for the Lakers? Are you rooting for LeBron? LeBron, obviously a guy from this area, has been very successful with the Cavs, very successful with the Heat. He brought Cleveland the first title in 52 years. So my question, I guess, again, to our audience would be, are you rooting for the Lakers? Are you rooting for LeBron? Or do you even care? So, but I'm going to throw out some numbers here for LeBron, and just to show you how unbelievable some of his playoff statistics have been. So he has played in 259 playoff games. He's missed 0. That's right there. That to me is unbelievable. He has logged 10,728 minutes in the playoffs. Again, unbelievable number. He is the leading scorer in playoff history. He has surpassed 7,000 points, 7,423 points. No other player in NBA history has more than 6,000 points. To put that into perspective. He is now sitting in second place behind, he just passed John Stockton, but he's sitting in second place behind Magic Johnson with 1,854 career assists. And he is 38-10 in closeout games. So just some of those numbers have really stood out to me. He's, you know, like him or hate him, I know he can be a very polarizing figure, but to me, I'm rooting for him. I want him to get his 4th title, his 3rd in a different city. Do I wish it was in Cleveland? Absolutely. But, you know, for him, someone that's from this area, from Akron, you know, I wish him the best and hope for the Lakers to close it out on Friday. My prediction is going to be Lakers 107-101 over the Heat. And the Heat, not to be discredited, have done a fantastic job, especially with a lot of their key guys out. The Lakers are 7-point favorites and with a minus 320 on the money line. So by our next show on Tuesday, we'll know what's happened with that, and we'll catch up on that. A few other topics before we go. We're probably going to go to about 1:45 today. College football. So college football starting to get kind of back in the groove. We're getting a lot of really, really good games coming up. This weekend we have Clemson at Miami. We have Virginia Tech in North Carolina, Tennessee at Georgia, Florida at Texas A&M. So all ranked versus ranked, which is going to be awesome. 2 weeks from this coming Saturday, we have Ohio State football back, which is going to be fantastic. And just in case you were wondering, it has been 3,238 days since the team up north's last victory over the Buckeyes. And finally, the high school playoffs are going to kick off this weekend. So a lot of teams that have had a really, really solid record have buys this weekend, but some of the teams to watch out for after the bye week, we have Austintown Fitch, Canfield Cardinals, Springfield Tigers, South Range Raiders, and West Branch Warriors, all 6-0. So those are teams to look out for. Next week, we're going to get one of our high school experts on to discuss the playoffs going forward. So with that said, I'm going to cut it a little bit short today because, one, my voice is struggling, as people have probably noticed. So again, I apologize on that. Nothing I could do about that. But think about those questions over the weekend. What is the best city in the United States currently to be a fan of their sports team? So again, 3 teams or more. Think about that. I'd like to thank Chelsea Spears, anchor from WKBN, First News This Morning. Check her out. And I'd like to thank Joe Danier's Youngstown Studios for producing the show, and Coca's Pizza for sponsoring the show. So with that said, everyone have a great weekend. We are out.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.